The government is claiming that India's statistics are giving positive signs of reduction of coronavirus caseload. It has released graphs and figures, statistics to show how active cases continue to be less than 10 lakh for last 2 weeks. Now, these graphs and statistics, they have been released by the Press Information Bureau, PIB, and they are also putting the spotlight on recoveries. They're claiming the number of recovery is very reassuring for our country. Also, the positivity rate has been low for a few days, according to the government. Now, usually a higher recovery and a low positivity rate should be a sign of the curve flattening. But in India's case, is it really true? Is it the flattening of the curve? Most states are doing more rapid antigen testing than the gold standard RT-PCR test. In the capital Delhi, with all its facilities, we have seen the number of RT-PCR tests fall massively and replaced by the less reliable RAT, which is the rapid antigen test. You can see the number of tests have not increased massively for a while now, though the number stays constant. On an average, we are doing more than 10 lakh tests, which is a good thing. But what is the composition of this testing? The point of concern is that the central government does not release the breakup of the testing. So unless we take each state individually who do give the breakup and then add up all the tests, it is impossible to know how true the positivity numbers are. Now, this is the graph that we are showing to you, which shows how exactly the numbers, the fresh cases, the numbers of fresh cases is limited right now. It is not increasing that much. So what does this really mean for India? According to the government, well, this might be flattening of the curve, but is it really flattening of the curve? To discuss about this, we are joined by a guest. Joining us right now is Dr. Shweta Khandelwal. She's a public health expert. She's head nutrition research and additional professor of PHF. I am sorry, Dr. Khandelwal there. Dr. Khandelwal, what exactly do you read into these statistics? Because it's a good thing that the number is not increasing massively, the number of cases coming in the last 24 hours. But also, we don't have any clarity about the tests. Are they the RT-PCR tests which give us good results, or is it the RAT, the rapid antigen testing, which we don't really trust that much because of false negatives?
So a very good question, Anjali, and thank you for having me. I think before we discuss this, as a public health professional, my duty is to tell you that the COVID road, the recovery road is very challenging, but it's feasible. When we are talking about all these tests, about these positivity rates and everything, it's important for me to tell you that it is feasible, F-E-A-S-I-B-L-E. And what I mean by that very quickly is, F is focusing on prevention and health promotion. Please understand that diagnostics or management is not the only arm. We must focus on prevention and health promotion. Absolutely. E is for expanding the horizons for inclusivity. You know, all genders, migrants, inequities, they should be expanded, included in this horizon. A is for augmenting capacity. Who are going to, the real reason why we are not having clarity on tests and data is that capacity of these people is very limited. We must augment that capacity. A was augmenting. S is for science, solidarity, and solutions. We must understand that the procedures, the metrics, like you right now pointed out, the rapid antigen test versus the RPR, tests, so many of them. Should it be per million? Should it be by 1,000? We don't have clarity on procedures, metrics. So science, solidarity, and solutions is my S. I is for innovative R&D, like the telemedicine, the digital health blueprint, all these innovations which must come in and help our, in COVID. B is for building trust, community engagement, and empowerment. Please understand that vocal for local by Prime Minister must be done here as well. We must take that ownership of our own caseloads and, recovery. The L is for obviously leadership, like I'm talking about, the multi-layered at each level, multi-dimensional leadership, learning from success and failures, not hiding numbers or being nervous about it, but putting it right there in our faces for us to help to, discuss, deliberate, and come up with solutions. And E, very quickly, is the effective emergency measures. Right. Of course, in this whole foolproof thing, the feasibility, therefore, is very important when you talk about, these variations and so on and so forth.
Right.
So when we talk, yeah.
Sorry. Right. Please go ahead, Dr. Khandelwal.
No, so my 2 points emanating from this is that the reason why we should not become very complacent about COVID right now is that these two metrics, whether it's daily testing or it's the positivity rate, they go up and down, as you've seen. And sometimes these statistics are blinding in certain ways. We are seeing that the case numbers are going down, yes, but the positivity rate means the proportion of people turning positive is actually higher. So, it takes a while for us to decipher these things. And
Right.
therefore, by your medium, I'm trying to lay emphasis on these numbers are temporary. What is more important is making a healthcare system overall strong and strengthened so that not only COVID, and this is not the only pandemic which will hit us, Anjali, there will be, God forbid, but there will be more, and we know that. So we should be prepared in a better, holistic, coordinated, concerted fashion. That's my 2 cents here.
Right. So, Doctor, you would say that 2 continuous weeks is not a time period that you would base your assumptions on, that, okay, we are in a safe zone now. 2 weeks is not enough.
I don't think so, because it's too early to give a pat on your back.
Absolutely.
It's like you are doing good in your tests, maybe revision tests, but it's not necessary that the exam you will score 100, right? So it still requires consistent practice, controlled monitoring, very, very sharp eyes on and hands-on data, all hands on the deck right now to help us meet this huge challenge.
Right. Doctor,
We should be happy but not complacent. Yeah. Sorry.
Absolutely. Now, I would just like to ask you about the testing, because it is a concern that the central government does not give any breakup of the kind of testing we are doing. And it is a massive, mammoth task to go and look at each government, state government, which is, if they are giving that data. So shouldn't there be more clarity for people like you, journalists, and also people who are making strategy to have that number in front of you?
Absolutely. And that despite, Anjali, that we know that RT-PCR as well as RAT, the rapid antigen test, both have a lot of degree of, variability, in the sense that about 30 to 40% of cases are missed by, or misdiagnosed by RT-PCR. And by RAT, it's about 50 to 55%. So we must therefore be very cognizant of the fact that where is the data source coming from? Is it from which specific test? So those things, those specific details also help shed light and estimate in a more realistic fashion, rather than giving, false assumptions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Khandelwal, for speaking with us. So as Dr. Khandelwal says, don't be complacent. Your life and your security, safety is in your hands, and prevention is the best cure. Thank you, Dr. Khandelwal. But other than prevention, there is also the matter of vaccine, and everybody keeps asking us, when is the vaccine coming? Well, when it does come, the government does have a plan. According to the government, it is going to provide COVID vaccines to around 25 crore people of the country's 130 crore people by July 2021. This is according to the Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan. He also said that the government would receive between 40 to 50 crore vaccine doses for this purpose, and that it would ensure equitable access. There are concerns over storage and delivery barriers in our country, particularly with sections of the population in remote rural areas and also vulnerable sections of the population. Let's listen to what the minister said.
Our government is working round the clock to ensure that there is a fair and equitable distribution of vaccines once they are ready. Our rough estimate and target would be to receive and utilize 400 to 500 million doses, covering approximately 20 to 25 crore people by July 2021. All this is still under various stages of finalization.
Joining me now is Dr. Yatin Mehta. He is Chairman, Medanta Institute of Critical Care. Thank you, Dr. Mehta. Government has a plan, and that's something which is reassuring for us. But do you think 25 crore people vaccinated by July 2021, this is going to help us in reining in the pandemic?
Yeah, that will be a huge advantage to have. If, say, 25 crores are vaccinated, and by July next year, if 25 crore more are already exposed to the virus in some form, whether bad disease or not such a bad disease, but they have the antibodies present in them, that means half the population is covered. And these 25 lakh crore vaccines, government is hopefully going to see to it that it is equitably distributed to start with for the more vulnerable population, like the healthcare workers, which includes all categories of healthcare workers, from doctors till the housekeeping chap, or to the vulnerable population, which is elderly population, diabetics, hypertensive, people with lung disease, heart disease, blood pressure, who are more vulnerable, and the morbidity and mortality is higher among those patients. So they'll be the ones who will be getting the vaccine, and hopefully the government should see to it that there is no, black marketing and things like that, which can happen in India. So that has to be taken care of. So I think hopefully by next year we will see better days ahead.
Right. Black marketing is a huge issue. We've seen that in case of remdesivir, and it can be quite a challenge, especially in areas where there are more cases happening. But Doctor, do you think 25 crore would be enough to give us that kind of a immunity? Because what you're talking about is natural immunity plus acquired immunity, giving a protection to the entire population of the country. Is that possible?
That will probably happen by the end of next year. But if you look at it, the younger population is not that much at risk. And it is impossible to 1.3 billion people to be, all of them to be vaccinated. You see how many years it took for smallpox vaccine to be given to everybody, or for TB vaccine, BCG, to be given to most of the population. So I think if by next year end, if most of your population is vaccinated, that's a humongous challenge, and I hope we are able to overcome that. But that's a very reassuring number.
Doctor, immunization program is the best bet for the government to reach out to every person so that they can take that vaccine without any hurdles. But what are the challenges that you see that the government will have to overcome to ensure it is an equitable access?
See, first challenge would be the pricing of the vaccine. So hopefully, government, if it is distributing the ICMR vaccine, then it will be reasonably priced. Even Serum Institute is going to be pricing it at a very reasonable price where it can be affordable to everybody. Also distribution, as I already talked about, that it should not be hoarded and distributed to in the wrong hands as a black market. It should not. It's a life-saving thing which will protect many, many lives. So adequate distribution without too much of bureaucracy and hurdles to the common public is what should be done. And third would be delivery at the site where it needs to be given. As you rightly said, that India, there are so many peripheral places, remote villages where access is difficult because of the flood situation or because of poor road connectivity and refrigeration and things. So all those things need to be taken care of. So there's a humongous challenge to a big country like India with so much of population. But I'm sure if we can conduct the elections peacefully, hopefully we should be able to overcome these difficulties also.
Dr. Mehta, what about storage issues? Because in India, that's a huge challenge. You know, with medicines, you have to be so careful about it. The temperatures, the other things, the other conditions, and also the training of those people who will be taking it to the last point person.
See, fortunately, because of the collateral benefit, I would say, of the COVID pandemic, there are a lot of health centers which are opened up. You know, COVID care centers, COVID health centers, COVID hospitals. So suddenly the infrastructure of medical facilities has expanded tremendously. So all those centers, even the COVID care centers, would have fridges, refrigerators with them, and healthcare worker who will be able to vaccinate the people and take adequate storage precautions. Obviously, electricity supply, all those things need to be taken care of. But because in the last 6 months, we have seen the facilities expanding because of the crisis. So hopefully, I think they should be able to take care of.
Doctor, the last question I'm going to ask, it's a little bit speculative. I'll ask you to speculate, but what do you think? Would we be getting different vaccines? This 40 crore, 50 crore doses would be different vaccines, or would the government prefer to go for only one vaccine and then go ahead with it?
That your guess is as good as mine. But I would think that to meet these large numbers, there will be different vaccines.
We don't have an option. So it might be a Russian vaccine, Chinese vaccine, our own vaccine.
I sincerely hope it's not the Russian vaccine. But yes,
okay. okay, we hope that the Russian vaccine also comes up with their own findings and it is as reliable, because we would prefer to have all vaccines working in this world. Thank you very much, Doctor. We'll be coming back to you for another discussion, but right now we're going to take a very short break, and we come back, then we talk about the Unlock 5 and schools reopening. But in Andhra Pradesh, 27 students of class 9th and 10th have tested positive for coronavirus. Welcome back. Unlock 5 is being rolled out in many states. Schools, temples and restaurants are opening up. Now, at least 27 students of 9th and 10th class in 2 schools have tested positive for coronavirus in Vijayanagaram district of Andhra Pradesh. The schools are to reopen only on November 2nd, and the students were reportedly going to school to clear their doubts after a declaration from their parents. And Education Department officials have said it is possible that the children contracted the virus elsewhere, but the collector has now instructed the school managements not to reopen on Monday without permission. The children were all said to be asymptomatic and hailed from different villages. Now, the administration has intensified health checkups in this area. Now, let's listen to what Uma Sudhir has to say about this entire incident.
This worrying report of 27 students testing positive comes from Vijayanagaram district of Andhra Pradesh. What we are being told is that 9th and 10th class students were in fact going back to school to clear doubts from teachers, even though the Andhra Pradesh government has decided that the reopening of schools will happen only from the 2nd of November. Because these students have to face a board exam in class 10, that's the reason why, after an agreement with the parents who would in fact sign on an affidavit, these children were allowed to come back to school. What the education authorities are now saying is that it's possible that the children did not contract the virus within the school, and they may have got the virus elsewhere, and it so happens that they were tested in the schools, and that's where their positivity had in fact shown up. In 2 schools, one school 120 people, in another school 108 people were tested, and 9 people and 18 people tested positive respectively. Those numbers could actually go up. As of now, the collector has said the schools will not reopen without the permission of the authorities. The health authorities want to take adequate precaution. They have also said that a mega health camp is going to be conducted in the villages where these children are coming from, and they have also said that there will be a fever survey that will be conducted in those areas. We had also reported that about 14 children who had attended a tuition class in Satyanapalli in Guntur had also tested positive, and the common point between these children was that they had attended this class, and therefore this implication that when children go to a class or get together, they could be contracting the virus or spreading it to each other and could in fact take the infection back home. All this is happening even as a very important epidemiological study has been published in the Science Journal, and in fact this involves a huge study in Andhra Pradesh and in Tamil Nadu, 2 states that have reported very high numbers in terms of corona positive numbers, and in both these states about nearly 85,000 corona positive patients and about 6 lakh contacts have been traced. And one of the findings of that study has been that yes, children do get infected, they do transmit the virus, and they could be transmitting the virus more to their friends or people of their own age group and lesser perhaps to the adults. That of course requires more study to know to what extent children are transmitting the virus. But yes, at a time when people are talking about unlockdown in schools, reopening of schools, these studies and the experiences in Andhra Pradesh could have massive implications.
So is it safe to reopen schools? Joining me now in this conversation is Dr. Yatin Mehta, Chairman of Medanta Institute of Critical Care. What do you think, Doctor? Is it safe?
See, it's a very difficult question to answer. Is it safe? Well, is it safer to be in the house? Yes, it is safer to be in the house than to be in school where at least lots of other students are there. You may not be in a very congested space, or you may maintain some sort of distancing. But it is very difficult to exercise too much of discipline among children, particularly when they are meeting old friends after whom they have not seen for months. So there is no absolute correct answer to this. I mean, is it okay to open the schools? I mean, how long can we keep the schools closed? That's another question. So the risk of the transmission would increase once the schools open. And the schools have to be vigilant about maintaining the discipline. But yes, there would be some price to pay for it.
Right. Doctors, there have been many urban surveys of parents, and most of them are not in the favor of opening up the schools. But do you think with the government saying, okay, you can go ahead if you can, if your parents agree to it, do you think undue pressure might come on parents because schools are keen on reopening because they have to charge the tuition fee?
No, but again, that's a very difficult question to answer. See, I sympathize with the schools also. How do you pay the salaries to the teachers? From somewhere the money has to come. Somebody has to pay for it. Also, can the students see this? What we talk about classes on the net or Zoom media, it's okay for urban schools, but see, the rural schools may not have those facilities. We must be realistic in India. How does one do that? Many of the villages in Bihar doesn't even have electricity. Don't even have electricity. Leave aside laptops.
Right. So we cannot have a blanket policy for opening of schools.
No, you cannot. Every school will have to decide, and every region and area will have to decide on their own.
Absolutely. Now, Doctor, as far as the parents who now are probably considering sending their children to school, are giving their consent because they think that it might benefit their children, what would be your advice to them? How can they ensure that their children be safe? And more than the children, when they come back, if they have older people around them, how can they be safe?
See, safe distancing of 6 feet, wearing a mask all the time, unless obviously you're having a glass of water, and hand hygiene are the three pillars on which you can prevent this. So, the children, my advice is wear a mask all the time. If possible, don't have a meal at the school, come back home and have it. Have a meal before you go and come back after you have it. Hand hygiene, keep a small hand hygiene bottle with you so where you can keep the alcohol rub and clean your hands. Do not unnecessarily touch surfaces. Do not come very close to your friends. Forget about friendship, can be done on phone. And when you come home, change your clothes and have a shower. Then you're okay, I think.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Doctor, for speaking with us. And also a huge responsibility lies on the schools who have to ensure that there is universal masking in their school with the teachers, students and everyone, and they all maintain distance. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us in this conversation.